Okay, welcome everyone. It's good to see such a great number for the first time, I think. And I hope you will stay here to support your seniors and your peers. And it's really great to see you all here at this time. Okay, so welcome everyone to the Bridging the Gap series. This is the series we have started, and you've been flooded with so many emails, so many reminders by many of us. And today is the first session, and I would like to invite Professor Derek to welcome you all for the same. That's just a poly camera replacement.
It can be moved?
Yes. Don't worry about it.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. So, as Professor Amanpreet just kind of hinted, it's really nice to see so many students here. We've had a lot of activities, and it's always a struggle. So we're really grateful to have you guys come out and support your fellow peers. So I think if you've seen the schedule, we've really got a great agenda for today. We've had a lot of exciting talks. And just out of curiosity, are there any 2022 students in here? All right. Well, I was going to say, this is really your opportunity to see what's possible. But the same will apply, of course, to the 2022 students. So, you know, we've had these Faculty in the Spotlight series now for about a year where we try to highlight the work of individual faculty members. But we've been talking for a long time. I'm really grateful that the research committee has been able to put this together to start up a series where we can really bring the attention back to the students. So this series is really designed for the students to take the spotlight, if you will. So to be clear, it doesn't mean you have already done an experiment and published it and it's peer reviewed, right? This is really an opportunity for students that have an idea, right? You put in the time, the effort, you become an expert on some topic and you want to share that information. And so this is a great venue, a great approach where you can come in and speak in front of an audience and really get that experience, and importantly, that feedback from both your peers and from the faculty themselves. So I'm really happy to welcome everybody. Again, this is the first in an ongoing series. And for each of our speakers today, I wish you all very well. I wish you good luck. And we are all thankful for you to take this opportunity to speak to us today. So thank you.
Okay, the first speaker for today's event is Ria. And I hope the friends stay over here for other speakers also.
So hello everybody, and thank you to the professors who really encouraged me to go on and actually come up on stage to go forward with the research idea. And I would also like to personally thank Professor Kanika, who has been helping me so much with putting this presentation together for just presenting it in front of all of you. So I think this topic would be relevant to a lot of us, especially in these times. Personally, all of my friends who know what memes are. So if you, I'll go on and share even more examples further. But the topic is basically memes on mental health and suicidal ideation, the irony of humor in millennials and Gen Z. So just a trigger warning if it's needed, there would be mentions of harm to self, like it won't be graphic, but it would just be a recurring theme in this presentation. So this is just meme like one of them. It's like me using humor as a defense mechanism to hide my deep-seated mental health issues, and you can just see what the picture illustrates. So first of all, I will also just, this is an example if you want like what kind of memes I'm talking about, and I will give you a definition of what meme is, just in case. So memes are basically any image, video, or piece of text typically humorous, so like people laugh on it. And it is copied and spread rapidly by the internet users. Sometimes it may have symbolic meaning, sometimes they're trying to share their feelings, just putting it in a humorous context, making it easier perhaps. So these are just different examples of that. So also when I talk about the population that I plan to target for this research is millennials and Gen Z. So just to clarify on those terms, millennials are people who are a demographic cohort of people who were born in the years 1981 to 1997. So like it's pretty old. And currently, all of us are not old in that sense. I mean, just for this, just for the population rate that I am covering. No offense meant to you. It was meant as that. I'm so sorry. So currently, they are of the age 25 to 41 years old. And when I talk about Gen Z, I mean people who are the demographic cohort who are born in the range of late 1990s and the early 2000s. So in the present year, there will be people who are in the age range of 7 to 25 years of age. And I haven't really covered it much in this one, but there is also Generation Alpha, which is basically the generation that comes after. So I'm open to it if it does come into the picture, but maybe I was focusing on millennials and Gen Z first. So this is just an article I found online which was talking about the depression culture. So it says that in a recent study, depression memes were found to be responsible for 35% of the content researchers analyzed in the depressed hashtag on Instagram. So like we all know, there is a lot of content flowing online, and hashtags are one way in which you can find a lot of similar posts under just one tag. So under the depressed tag, like 35% of them were literally just memes and nothing else. And as you can see, it's a mental health issue. Like we are psychology students, faculty of psychology, so we know what the term depression or depressed actually mean and how intense it can be. So in depression means there is polyvocality, which is the power of many voices to shift and sustain narrative change. It allows the users to identify with any number of anxieties effectively represented by the memes without being authentically tied to them. Like I could look at a meme and just relate to it without actually without anyone else knowing that this is how I really connect to it. Like some people might think I'm just doing it, because it's funny, but sometimes it could be that I personally feel the same thing. So it argues that an internet depression culture based on the principles of pretense, because there is very less authenticity. Like some people might even just do it, post some meme just for the social capital. Like they want to increase their followers, they want to get many likes, they just want to get the fame or popularity. But also has the purpose to protection from repercussion by dominant narratives. But it paradoxically creates an ambiguity that also generates that risk. So people might just post it for whatever reasons, for maybe they are talking about some serious topics, but it also just has this ambiguity which doesn't really, which is also like keeping that risk sustained in that narrative. So this is just another example. Meme culture depends both on the notion that certain forms of content can be relied on to gain attention and likes, as I was talking with the social capital, but it can also be interpreted as intimate and private forms of expression. Like sometimes I may not feel comfortable talking about my feelings, but if I want to share it with my friends with just a humorous meme, they would just get it, and I would also be able to also be able to share my feelings without really owning up to it in a sense. So at the heart of this culture is the usage of irony, which was mentioned in the whole topic. Like I'm exploring the irony of humor that is present. So feelings of inadequacy also result when users interpret what other users post to be authentically felt, despite themselves feeling pressure to post a certain type of content. Everybody on Instagram wants to look like they have their life together. Everybody wants to show the different places they are going to, what kind of food they are having, all the aesthetic buildings, like this is where I am at this weekend. But some people feel pressure that they cannot really talk about how they're feeling this weekend. Like I cannot tell all of my friends I had a breakdown in the morning for a presentation, but I can tell them that I saw a very cute cat last night, and that's how it goes for us. So why I think that the research is needed. So first of all, the memes on this topic is actually very sensitive, and as I said, we all understand that certain terms and like depressed and all these mental health issues are actually very sensitive. and we have to be careful on what conversation we are allowing for it to happen, like what context it is taking place. So you may also have seen various psychology facts online, like the psychology fact says this, even though there is actually no psychology research that has taken place on that topic. There are also sometimes, like I use this term loosely, but trivializing mental health issues, like signs you have depression, and people are then self-diagnosing themselves, like, oh my God, I'm depressed because this Instagram post says I am. And there is, we know that humor is also used as a coping mechanism for a lot of people. But I want to question: is it a very good way to actually cope, and like to what extent it should be used? Do we also need an intervention of other coping mechanisms? So it also gives rise to like what kind of mental health discourse should happen online. And like as I was doing research on this, I found that there is very limited formal research or systematic data collection on this particular topic. I did not find any interviews or any personal anecdotes of people being shared. It was just a public opinion that was posted or a commentary being done. There was no proper suggestions on how mental health discourse could take place online in a healthy way. And there is actually no differentiation between different generations. Like sometimes you may just include Gen Z, but even millennials are people who are using social media or who are using the internet, and they also come across these memes, and they are also engaging with it to some extent. So this is just one of the social media site called Tumblr. So for those who do not know, it's just a multimedia social media site. You can post text, you can post images, you can also post videos, anything. So there was one thing in particular which I found problematic. Like this was from a personal search that I did. I was just searching depression memes on it because apparently it is not censored. You can just search depression memes. And one of the tags in this is pro-ana, which basically means that they are promoting anorexic eating disorder. And there are actually various posts under this tag, and there are also pro-ana tips. Like these are some certain tips you can do for like promoting anorexic behavior. Like there is a whole community which is based upon unhealthy coping mechanisms they're using to cope with this. I mean, I don't know how they're coping with it, but that's how it goes. And in case you do search something which indicates that you're in distress or something, this is what Tumblr will show. It is everything okay, and then it will give you a list of suggestions of what you can do. So just trigger warning for this one. I'm going to mention some eating disorder themes also in this one. Some tags are like I need to lose the weight, pro-ana tips, motivation, sweet spo, mean spo, weight loss, binge eating. I want to be a skeleton. And now we come to Instagram, which is another social media site. So Instagram is basically where you can share your images and videos. It doesn't really allow you to just share anything in place of a text. So here is what happened when I searched different things. I searched depression memes and it says can be helped. And when I clicked on get support, or I can also just see the results anyway, but when I clicked on get support, this is what it opened up. So there are ways like I will be reminded that you have some people that you can talk to, or you can reach out to someone and get some support. And the same goes for when I searched for anxiety memes. And when I searched the pro-ana, which I found on Tumblr, it did not give me any results and just said that here are some resources that might help. So I think it is good that they're not showing me any posts because I don't personally want to know what goes under that tag. So the research questions I want to explore is what is the role of social media in promoting the discourse of mental health, and how to engage in a healthy mental health discourse on social media sites. What are the benefits, if there are any, of using humor of such nature to actually cope with mental illness? So, what does casually suicidal mean, and what is the prevalence rate of it in the millennial and Gen Z population? So, also the term casually suicidal that I introduced over here comes from the suicidal ideation that is in my. Just to conclude. So it just talks about I came across this TED talk by Sarah. It is titled Casually Suicidal, and it talks about these memes where people are I would rather die than sit in this class. I would rather get killed than do something, or just to show that this is just not something I want to do, and I would go to extreme ways to avoid it. And the research plan is just choosing certain social media handles and what conversation or topic gets promoted, which involves collective and systematic data collection. I also want to use scales of depression, social media addiction, anxiety levels, stress levels of people who are engaging in this content and how it is before or after they are engaging with such content. Personal interview with people who may have mental illness and their personal views on it, because I personally did not find anything where a person who is diagnosed with depression saying what they feel about seeing these memes online. Just collect responses, and as a psychology student, just say what I think should be the mental health discourse and how it should happen. So the next steps or collaboration opportunities is that I would want practicing psychologists, because I don't have certain access to people who are diagnosed or who may want to be a part of this study. So if they could supervise or help facilitate this conversation, and also professors who could mentor me for this research, because personally it is just a research idea and I haven't done the groundwork is just the research and I need some guidance to go on about it, and just on how questionnaires and all can be created. If you have any questions, I will take them. And that's it. Thank you.
Have any questions or ideas on this? How take it forward?
So not to be pedantic, but if I could just give a little background, maybe it will be informative like before. So the term meme actually came to the forefront in the late 70s, early 80s. It was actually based on gene. So it's a mental gene is what they thought of. Whereas a gene is transmitted through bodies, and meme is transmitted through minds. And just like Darwin, it actually is propagated in the same way. So you have heritability, that is, there has to be some way to pass it from mind to mind. There's variability within the memes themselves, and some of those memes are going to be more fit than others. That is, they have more offspring, they feel more minds, if you will. So they have something on social media going viral, right? That's highly fit. So the point, again, I don't know if it's useful or not, is it would be interesting to look at mental health on social media through these various sort of denominators and try to understand that there's certain memes or certain platforms where you can see greater fitness, greater variability, or greater irritability, one way or the other. But it's actually really a fascinating background in terms of how this all came about. And while I know you all think of memes in terms of social media, right, again, it's anything that can occupy your mind. It could be a song, it could be a thought or an idea from a book, it could be something from a movie or a TV show. Again, it's really anything that sort of holds itself within your mind. Any bit of information can be classified as a meme.
Thank you for sharing that.
This is not exactly a suggestion, but we have been using the terms defense mechanism and coping mechanism interchangeably. So, as a psychologist student, it can be a problematic use of terms because, as we have studied earlier, that defense humor is basically a defense mechanism more than a coping mechanism. So, when you want to do the literature review and place up the questions, I would suggest to take a look at it before you use certain terminology and operationalize the term in the way you want to use it. You can use it as coping mechanism as well, but then you have to define it in that manner.
Yeah, one thing, it's an amazing idea, first of all, because memes are something that they are going to be there, and it would be amazing to see how the discourse takes it. So, the way you have looked at memes, you have, given some connotation which is related to depression or anxiety, things like that, memes would also have a positive thing. It's only we will get to know once we start interviewing people what they think about it. What is the role of meme in their life? Because it's all I think, many of the professors use memes in their class, and memes are something that's interesting to look at. So probably it would be interesting as to how memes are going to be taken as part of the communication in the future, because it's not just you expressing yourself. It's also how how your mindset might be. So it's an amazing way. Whatever you have done is amazing. So you can just study it as a discourse itself. That might be good. If you want to relate to it here on the outside, that's great. But just getting to know how people are seeing things will be amazing.
So like have it open and not just limited to the negative aspect.
So as you rightly mentioned that sometimes I just use a meme because I connect to it without owning it, and it sometimes gives me a way to capitalize my feelings without actually need to connect with the external world personally. So that's a very positive way for me.
It can be different from that. Yeah. I can certainly look into that when I'm doing more research and getting around.
I think just to get back to we have to holistically this fan of week or so. That's all she has.
She is a very hard worker, yeah.
And she's not well. She had a very long time. I think given the time she had it, that's it. And I think
Right, say one thing, I think we can default, have the faculty talk a lot, but really students, we're friendly, respectful environment here. Please engage, talk to your fellow students, offer your ideas, right? There is no bad idea, there is no bad question, please.
We also get
So, I have a question actually. In the study, are you under the assumption that everyone who probably shares a meme or relates to a meme does have a mental health condition? Or are you saying that them just doing so is contributing to the reduction?
First of all, thank you for the question. So the entire thing is where I'm like, I am personally not in the assumption because I want to interview people and get to know from them like what is their purpose of interacting with the meme. And because I also highlighted that certain studies have said that it is just for the social capital, like some people are doing it. Some people are doing it because somehow it's trendy to talk about memes in this sense. So they are just posting memes on it without actually authentically being tied to it, even personally, even though they are the ones posting it. So I am like open to the idea and how it would unfold, which will only come with more research and actually talking to people.
I had a question.
come back to the very
It's also a question and also a suggestion along with this. One can see the memes from two different points of view. From the science communication point of view, the question of representation, how well the scientific facts are represented, that's a point of view. Probably you may not be interested because I don't know if that is what interests you. Number one. The second is from the point of view of reception, how people with mental health dysfunctions or normal people, how do they receive these news? This is also a study which can be done, which can tell us how, as a community, as a population, engage with the meme. So you have to probably make some kind of stand which one you would focus on from the science communication point of view or from the reception point of view. That would kind of help you to go ahead with some clear directions rather than having both of them together.
Just narrow it down instead of a very big study which is just talking about a whole. Thank you.
First of all, you really a very fascinating idea. Congratulations. I am not very active on social media, so that's why I was refraining from asking you a question. But I'm just curious to know that, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I see a lot of organizations also who work in the area of mental health. They also very loosely post these memes on their Instagram page. Um, I might be wrong, but I feel that it happens a lot, and especially when we recently, like this month is a World Mental Health Month that is getting celebrated. So it will also be interesting to know it from the point of view of these organizations and what is it, why are they posting like these memes, and probably also look at the comment section, how people they respond and what are their response to these kind of memes. That could also probably help you dig further. How are they perceiving it? What is their reaction towards? Congratulations. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riya, and thank you for the comments.
And since you've received the comments, you can always go back to them, and ask for more clarifications and details. Okay, now I would like to invite, you would have already seen on the screen, Dhruv, Jayatri and Shravan.
Okay, so before we start, I'd like to give a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about rape. First of all, I'd like to show you a video.
ಉಳಿದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಂದು. There is a saying, when rape is acceptable, lie down and enjoy it. That's exactly the position into which you are.
ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಗಮನ ಸೆಳೆಯೋದು.
So in case you didn't hear that properly, he said when rape is inevitable, you should just lie down and enjoy it. This was said by Ramesh Kumar. He is a member of the Legislative Assembly. And so, first of all, I'm going to talk about how we came about this paper. I'm sure all of us know about the Nirbhaya gang rape case in 2012. And that was a landmark case. And since then, women's rights, violence against women and rape has come to the forefront of Indian legislation. And so we've decided to understand how Indian legislation and their understanding of rape and their perception of rape indirectly or directly influences public opinion.
So continuing further, I would be doing the introduction of the study. So under the section 375 in the IPC describes you. Now, obviously, I won't be reading all of this, but if you look at the starting of the section 375, it starts with a man is said to commit rape. And if you look at the subclauses, we can see that her here is highlighted. Meaning we can interpret that rape is only considered a crime when it's committed against women. Meaning it's not a crime when it's committed against men. Now, this is one of our starting, phase of our, let's say, of our study. Now, the aim of our research would be to investigate the speeches and discourses on rape by the members of parliament from a psychological and legal perspective. So initially, I think we had a lot of debate on taking into a legal consideration or more of a psychosocial consideration. But I think we came into understanding that a legal perspective is important because we are talking about something which is a crime. Now, our objectives of the study would be deconstructing the power dynamic between the perpetrator and the victim, understanding the undermining of the victim from a legislative standpoint. How do these factors influence policy formation and public order? All of this, I think, we would be doing it through the lenses of authority in India. For example, Ramesh Kumar, the MLA of Karnataka, how he perceives rape and how that has an outlook on a psychosocial understanding.
Alright, so I'll be doing a very brief literature review to explain where we come from, what we've understood so far before actually examining this phenomenon, right? So section 1 will be a brief review of how rape is understood globally, that is through existing literature. And the second one will be where is the existing knowledge gap that we're examining. Alright, so rape, then again, is not a single term, right? This term doesn't hold a single meaning. For some people, for some countries, for some authorities, there's a simple legal meaning to it, right? That legal meaning is sexual intercourse without consent, right? Maybe intercourse, maybe even forms of harassment, so on and so forth, right? Nonetheless, there's also philosophical understandings of it that are more abstract, that this is a level of harm that is irreparable to the victim, right? But our focus here is to understand how is it really seen from a legal standpoint? Because at the end of the day, what happens post a crime? The need is for justice, right? Not retributive, but restorative. Now, the sad reality, as you may have seen in Shravan's first slide, is that in many countries, including India, or as the IPC reflects, rape is a gendered crime. It starts with a man committing it without her consent, her permission, without her ability to give consent. Right? Now, why does this create a problem for us? Because it is seen in such a through such a binary lens that not only does our understanding of rape get limited, but also the fact that we're able to neglect all other acts as irrelevant. We are not able to label them as crimes. Why? Because the law doesn't exist. Now, our study is primarily based on the psychosocial factors that intervene in this, right? We are not here to tell you that there's been no research, this is something entirely new. There's been a lot of research across decades that has examined the role of psychosocial factors and how rape is perceived. Now, as you may see in the first study, that is about ambivalent sexism. This was a study recently conducted in 2018 on 264 students. And they saw that in ambivalent sexism, people who are hostile usually blame the woman. They say it is her fault. I'm pretty sure all of us have heard at some point phrases like she was wearing revealing clothing, she was asking for it, right? So the psychosocial basis of such myths, such narratives is hostile sexism. On the other hand, benevolent sexism is saying that, oh, the perpetrator did not mean to do it. He did not have that intention. Things are being misinterpreted. The second hand, an older study that has been conducted in 1985 considers the hindsight effect. The hindsight effect is a cognitive bias that sees the knew it all along phenomenon, right? This is a cognitive bias due to which people think they already knew the outcome of what was going to happen based on certain information or due to their own conceptions. This study had 3 groups. Each group was divided into 2 sections. One was given a story. Both of them were given stories about rape. The only difference is one story had a concluding sentence, but the act of rape was mentioned. One study did not. When questioned later, people who read that outcome not only exaggerated the event, but said, hey, I could see it coming. This is something that was so obvious. Why? Because the woman's behavior was so and so, which led to this. Right? Now, while there is a ton of research, to our best knowledge, we have not come across a single paper that examines this from a legislative standpoint. What do I mean by legislative standpoint? Studies have previously examined students, younger adults, older adults, throughout the spectrum of age, right? And even in multiple settings, industrial settings, educational settings. But where is the actual land? There is no study that has ever examined how ministers of the Indian Parliament, right? There's a lack of studies in the Indian context as it is, on top of which, at least we have not come across any other study that analyzes the statements given by the ministers of parliament to see how people who are actually responsible for bringing about change and how rape is perceived, how rape is dealt with, actually think of it. And how this thinking further translates into what we see as the IPC today.
Right, so something that I feel sets our study apart from other studies is how we're studying rape and how it's perceived by ministers of the Indian Parliament. We're using the method of content analysis. Now, unlike other qualitative research methods, this doesn't involve talking to respondents or the subjects directly. We're looking at written communication or documents that are publicly available, of course, and we are analyzing for certain words, themes, or concepts. We've gathered all of this from the Lok Sabha Digital Library, the official debates of Rajya Sabha, and articles that were published in national dailies. To give you an example of how we're conducting content analysis, this is something that Jaya Bachchan said. She said that, I know it is a little harsh, but I think these kinds of people need to be brought out in public and lynched. This is in response to, not in response, she was actually talking about rapists. And here we see that Jaya Bachchan, although she's at the opposite end of the spectrum from Ramesh Kumar, who we talked about earlier. She is focusing on retributive justice rather than restorative justice. So we see that on one hand, there is a complete lack of responsibility, and on the other, instead of rehabilitation and restoration, we're focusing on punishment.
So that's it with our research topic. Now we would like to ask some questions and feedback to the faculty and everyone present here. So, as we all know, our sources are the national dailies, parliament speeches from the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, we wanted to know what other sources could we take from to write our paper, and are there any confounding variables or factors that we should take into consideration? And also, apart from content analysis, are there any other methods that we can use to our benefit? And the last question we would like to ask you all is, how can we get this published in a reputed journal? Thank you. I know microphone.
So, do you have to consider, is this, see, there are multiple sources available. You have a newspaper to video archive or social media content. Is there a reason you want to expand? Because the video library is good enough, so if you have enough data, I don't see why you want to include other sources. Because it can itself lead to a good paper, if analyzed well and it's a comprehensive one. Just want to check if the reason you want to expand from the current data set you are using.
For example, we got only 3 videos or 3 parliament speeches from Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. So I wouldn't consider 3 as something we could, analyze and study. But there are a lot of, speeches like ministers do on the public. There are a ton of them. For example, not exactly Ramesh Kumar, but I'm not able to recall, but there are a ton of them which we have also archived, but we could only find 3 of speeches from the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha.
But just to add on to that, while we do see them as credible sources, there's a feature of the Indian Parliament known as a private session, right? No verbatim is either noted down in those times, or as the Indian Parliament comes to function, a lot of words are censored out. The library requires us to search by a keyword, right? The first time all 3 of us actually sat down and tried, we searched rape, 0 documents showed up, not a single document. We had to navigate around this act. We had to search sexual assault, crimes against women, and even then we didn't get results, right? It's almost like an advanced Google search that we do there. And on top of which, to add on to Shravan's point, a very clear example is that of a minister whose recent demise is something that's been in the news, Mulayam Singh Yadav, yeah, right? In a speech he made to a public, right? This is outside parliament, this is outside elections, this is a rally, right? He went on to say that boys and girls usually interact, right? When they interact, they get really intimate. Sometimes, owing to this intimacy, there's miscommunication between them. And owing to this miscommunication, the girl goes on to say the boy raped, right? On top of which, he went on to add that boys will be boys, and to say in Hindi, "Unse galti ho jati hai." So that's why we want to know if there's other sources that we can consider.
I'm sure, this using this gray literature, public literature, domain is always a good idea, but it's so expansive, right? You can have videos, you can have newspaper, you can have blog posts, you can have social media, and there's abundance of it. And there's no right way to censor it. I know there are people who have just systematic videos published with 3 papers in that area, so it's not bad to have 3 videos. But as I say, making quite a persuasive case, maybe including some newspaper publication in this area might be a good idea because they're very close to, a public domain article that maybe you want to look for some videos and something which is published by authentic newspapers in India. And that you want to, propose as the first case. And your follow-up can actually be much more great. So I think that may be a good sample to start and get a decent publication out of you. But don't go for it all because sometimes you're very greedy and you want to get everything there, and that actually leads you to dilute the research question a lot. So if there's just 2 little video, anything that's not giving you enough content, I think 3 is a decent number still if it has a good content. If not, I would go with what Trooper suggested. Possibly some newspapers, articles to cover that because that's again very common.
Probably, if you can trace the events, when these events happened, there were a lot of what you're saying as Delhi Wallet and the MP word, you were saying that. So if you see that a lot of the comments by the, so when these cases were happening in the Week magazine and the newspapers during that time, there were a lot of incidents which actually revolved around these 2 things that you mentioned. Like they were even pushed saying that the women wear the clothes like that. So just you see the rape cases, and you can just try to find out what is the root, like what is the thinking root which is going through that. So doing content analysis to structure the things might be a good idea. So you can deconstruct a lot of MLAs and MPs were giving comments as to how the situation has been, how they and they were all saying that it's the women's clothing, or they were giving the other things. There were a lot of themes that you can explore. Not just content analysis, you can also do some kind of a thematic analysis and come up with a lot of the other themes. But I think even the 3 videos in that case that you are putting in is more than sufficient, I think.
Just a suggestion, I think I'm sure you might have already looked into it. Is Twitter an option where you can find any such tweets or videos, maybe you could have shared some information on that?
Some of our videos are from Twitter, which was published in Twitter.
Yeah, I would suggest Twitter because Twitter is something new in nature here. Yeah, and officially people are actually using Twitter as for research publications or even to look for data. Secondary data, people are looking at Twitter because in Twitter you can actually chart out like how many tweets were retweeted and how did it go, and all the connections can be made. So you can find more retweets and more videos done. So maybe that is
Yeah, so that would end up a lot of data that itself social
that
media
is a
itself,
data, but yeah, that will complicate your work for sure.
Yeah, so that may be just one thing. If they just want to look on social media,
Yes,
that
on just Twitter.
That's a great idea. I mean, except for certain, again, not to offend anyone's political sentiments here, there are parties that resort to censoring certain tweets. So beyond that, I'm sure we can find some literature from Twitter as well.
Yes,
At least we can use
yes.
the same.
Just one suggestion. We JSPC has collaborated with PARI, People Against Rape in India. So maybe you could also talk to the founder. She is an activist and she has been working with this field for a long time. And if you check her social media handles, she has been working on something very similar. So maybe you can hear about her.
Just keeping time in mind, we can take a couple of questions.
Once I just have a suggestion here, that when you're talking about rape and your project that is reducing it in terms of gender. So just be a bit cautious about it, because when you look at some of the major rapes that has happened historically, whether it was a public case, whether it was school and lady, I think there were rather an intersections of identity and whether authority is embedded in a structure of identity. So I think that really needs to be held accountable. Or even whether it was Hathras case or the case which has recently happened, I think we tend to get a political discourse around the whole proceeding about this. I think the marginalized identity needs to be voiced. So you can just state that, when you're looking at the equality, I think that's structured in a certain context of identity. It could be caste and as well. I think let that appear in the book. We're just really cautious.
Initially, the aim for our paper was to just deconstruct the concept of this crime through parliament speeches and ministers. But when we started doing that, we realized that it's a gender crime. And therefore, it was important for us to bring the gender perspective into the study. And therefore, it seems to be a very, gender biased study. Because the ministers make it like that. And that's what we're trying to study.
In Indian context, I'm sure to find other way to facilitate. That's what I'm just suggesting.
Of course. Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
The discussion can continue and you can always seek help from the faculty. Thank you so much.
I'll follow up there.
Great. Thank you to Jetri and Shravan for great presentation. Okay, now we have the third presenter with us, Vanshika. Just hold this.
Okay, good evening everyone. A lot of you, almost all the faculty and a lot of you know about my startup, but then we've never really talked about what it is in detail. So I thought this is a very nice opportunity to maybe connect with all of you and talk about what it is. So I chose the topic mental well-being, a choice or a privilege. I would begin by asking, by the show of hands, how many of us know what is well-being? I think almost everybody, right? Because we're psychology students. How many? And I'm assuming everybody knows what is therapy. Yes, but how many of us are actually taking therapy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So, right. So, coming back to my point, is mental well-being a choice or a privilege? So, I asked a lot of people around me, and I put up a poll on Instagram, and I asked a lot of people. So, there were mixed reviews. Some people were saying that it's a privilege because we don't get to have it a lot of times. Some people said that it's a choice. If you want your well-being to be good, then you can have it. So I got a lot of mixed responses. Then, but I think that we are privileged enough to know about what mental well-being is. We have a lot of information available to us. We're psychology students here, so we know what mental well-being is, what therapy is, and if we're in any case suffering one day, or maybe if we need therapy, then where to get it. So we are privileged enough to know about it, but then again, it becomes our choice or it becomes the circumstance to act upon it, right? So I'd like to share a personal anecdote here. A few years back, I realized that I needed therapy, and I acknowledged the fact that I need therapy. But the circumstances were such that it took me it wasn't up until a few months back that I actually got therapy. So I kind of introspected on what might be, the reasons and why is it that, it took me so long being a psychology student, being an advocate of mental health, what took me so long. So I laid down and I wrote up my personal factors and I talked to people around me who were going to therapy, and we found some of the factors that I'm going to show you here. So additional factors following the path to therapy is is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement, you acknowledge the fact that you are struggling, you want therapy, and you acknowledged it, but then what? You don't have the financial resources for it. We're students, we're unemployed, some of our parents are not really open to the fact that we want therapy. So then what? Then we want to find the right professional. Not every professional suits every person. We all know that, and we also know that there are different professionals for each thing. Like medication, only psychiatrists can provide, psychologists can't provide. So all of this information we have and we know, but what about the general audience? What about people who have never read a word about psychology? And of course, and fixing schedules. So we are submerged with assignments, we're submerged with classes. So do we really prioritize the time to take for ourselves? Do we really prioritize the time for therapy? Do we really have the time or the bandwidth for therapy? That is, these are some of the aspects that I wanted to cover. So we realized that, and then we, kind of me and my founder Ragini initiated this startup because I wanted to make the privilege of therapy a choice for all. Because and so mental Mind Diaries is a mental well-being startup. It aimed at spreading positivity. Initially, it was just a non-profit organization where we would raise funds for people and then pay for their therapy. But then we thought, why not do something more? Why not help uplift the people? And that is when we converted this into a startup. So steps taken at Mind Diaries to help people. The first is consultations with our team. So, for example, if I'm a client and I go to Mind Diaries, I will approach them. I will tell them my requirements that, okay, I need a psychologist. And obviously, all of this information will be kept confidential. This is in no way a session or anything. It is just to ask somebody that I want a professional, I want help, and consultations with our team. So then our team will tell you all the kinds of professionals there are. There are psychiatrists. What do psychiatrists do? There are clinical psychologists. What do they do? Then social workers. Then career counselors, and so on and so forth. Then the third is fixing a budget. So for a lot of so then our team will set a guideline on the basis of your social economic status and the basis of your feasibility and your requirements, and they will prepare a budget wherein they know if you're unemployed or employed and what is your benefit to afford the therapy. Then we have scheduling sessions, which is either online or offline. We have professionals for both. So when we fix the budget, we realize that not everybody fits in those boundaries or fits in. So we realized that we needed psychologists who can work on a sliding scale. So we have collaborated with psychologists who work on a sliding scale pertaining to the client's needs. The budget is set for the therapy and the scale is set for the therapy. And all of this is done by our team. And the team is a group of students pursuing their masters or MPhil in psychology who haven't received a license yet and are not practicing psychologists. So problems and limitations. Most of our clients are students who do not earn at all but are in dire need of therapy. We wish to tackle each community, whether above or below poverty line. The client to professional ratio is 3:1. So 3:1 because we need therapy more than we think so. And I realized that when I came forward with this initiative, a lot of my peers opened up to me. A lot of my peers, whether on social media or otherwise, came up to me or came up to Mind Diaries and said that they wanted to avail this opportunity. So then we were actually falling short of professionals, to be very honest. So the solutions. So the first thing is therapy. So I also have an NGO, and so I thought, why not join hands both the two? And we started this initiative called Therapy, which is free therapy, wherein we raise funds from different companies, different organizations, CSRs, and we put the funds into utilizing these sessions for the clients. We pay for the clients for their therapy sessions, and then the second is pro bono sessions. A lot of therapists, you know better than me about this. There are pro bono sessions, so a lot of therapists are willing to provide pro bono sessions. Then sliding scales. We promote sliding scales, and we try to promote it as much as we can because we understand that this is your profession, and you might not want to change your budget because obviously you have studied a lot. Then more practical awareness. Theories have there are abundant theories. There are abundant there is abundant information on this. The government is also doing a lot around the globe, if not in India. But what is the practical or the ground knowledge that is going into this is what we're talking about. Then collaboration. Right now, we have 21 psychologists on board with us from different backgrounds. We have social workers because we do get cases which require social workers. And we also have career counselors because a lot of times our peers don't know the difference between therapy and career guidance. So we also have them on board with us. And of course, I would like to extend a hand to all of you. If you would like to, create an opportunity, and if you would like to work with us partially, or yeah. So this is a recent project that we're working on, as I've talked about therapy. So a lot of us from Delhi University, and all we know what is Delhi University. So they recently came up with a notice where they said if those children are unwell, if children are unwell and or not doing well mentally, can take a break, but they have to attend classes. They have to give those exams. So this notice was is by the University of Delhi Office of the Proctor, which was found very problematic by most of the Delhi students. And so that is why we initiated this for Delhi students, because if you are from Delhi University, you might be aware, other than the top tier colleges, there is a lack of a good mental health counselor in Delhi universities. And that is why we wanted to reach out to them, because specifically in colleges, students come from various walks of life, various parts of life, and we don't know whether they can afford therapy or not. And so that is why we wanted to help them. So yeah, and with that, I conclude my presentation. You can connect with us, and you can connect with us on Instagram, either mail or Twitter or LinkedIn. Yeah, thank you so much. Any questions? So, as I said, so most of our clients are students, but we pertain to anyone and everyone who might need therapy, and not just one section or segment of the society. And as I said, that we also want to, move into the line of underprivileged people, so that with the help of my NGO, maybe we can create awareness, and then maybe we can start working there. So yeah. Yes.
It seems to me that there are apps and developments in logistics where people who need autos, cabs, and then there's Ola. There's needy. There are people who can provide.
Yes.
But you're coming as a bridge between these two. But the only question I'm looking at from the enterprise point of view is the question of sustainability. Do you think it is sustainable on its own in some period, on how you're going to do that?
So I have been asked this question a lot, and honestly, would you prefer to go on different sites and look up on Google and for professionals, because a lot of people who are not from psychology backgrounds don't know where to contact the professionals from, and there might be apps and websites for that, but our team is providing all of that and everything in the process on one platform, and there aren't many apps for that. So just like Ola is providing services, they are connecting drivers to clients. That is how we're connecting professionals to clients, and we're becoming a bridge between them.
I think it's a great idea. As there are multiple sites with numbers of psychology, how the server is functional or wrong, including the site like ISP is supposed to be and creating this and doing it actually quite structured, very personalized. When you're very distant, just someone hears you and says, we can get very much extent. But it's very more expand from students from very internet-friendly, underprivileged, and private school. Just want to understand what all efforts are you doing to promote awareness, because as right before LCD counts, is actually what their
So actually, we began this in 2020 when the pandemic had struck us. So there were a lot of leads that were going on around social media with numbers of professionals, and as you said, none of them or most of them weren't working. And that is when we thought, we'll connect with those professionals. So what we do is usually professionals have their own website or their own, where they have their own information about what kind of qualifications they have. So we have it all in one place, and our team provides it to so it's like a database that they provide to the client that they might need, and so they can go through it and then they can see for which therapist suits them. And for the marketing purposes of this, so basically, I am in collaboration with the entrepreneurship cell of JGU, and they are rigorously helping me with this startup because, of course, I'm a psychology student. I know nothing about entrepreneurship. So they are helping me with this, and there is a proper. So we're over 100 volunteers here. I'm talking about a team of 100 people, and we're rigorously working from all over India, and by creating awareness and collaborating with other similar Instagram initiatives and other kinds of things. Yes.
I was wondering about same thing about awareness. Are you doing this in person or are you doing online?
So this is awareness, right? So I am currently grabbing every opportunity that I can, because I need to make people as much aware as they can be. And of course, the main platform is digital marketing, because social media is the main platform. So that is the main platform. Otherwise, I was recently featured in the Times of India. So awareness and marketing is kind of going hand in hand at this point. Yes.
Are you also giving them, or are you giving your fans the opportunity or the choice to have therapy through language?
Yeah, so as I said, we're working all over India. There has to be one common language, which is English for now, that we're keeping. For northern India, we're looking into Hindi, but since we're working in Maharashtra as well, so there is Maharashtrian language as well. So right now, yeah, we are expanding, and we look for, if the psychologist knows the native language of the place that they're commuting from. So yeah. Thank you. Because as I said, we're working in Delhi University, and a lot of people from all over the country come, and they don't generally know Hindi or English. So that is why we need more psychologists. All right, thank you. Thanks so much.
Take a small break, 10 minutes awkward break. By 10 minutes, I mean 10 minutes, not 10, 20, 30. It doesn't go straight. So we have to refresh this. Please, requesting all of you. It's available outside. Quickly carry on.
They can get.
So if you want to get your tea coffee in the restroom side, you can do that. Or if you want to just finish outside, please.
So you can just say after 5 minutes we can assume that.
Yeah, have a shot at the budget. It doesn't make a difference. That's your 5, 10 something. Yeah.
ना ना लॉग आउट नहीं किया हमारा JSPC स्टूडेंट रिसर्च ना
I really like it personal because apps and website give you then you want to follow up with someone talking and then you call me after this. You have it in a voice message. That really does contact.
Because policy making is something that we just take this it's not they desire comments from the images and the concerns. And when there is a live feed that happens to this yeah, so I remember the few years back, it was from the whoever has not taken this app, we go out. Others have taken.
It feels like it's been like 12 or 14 Yeah.
Should we just take a slide right here?
Yeah.
Right. Are you sure?
No. So Sonali, Adyas here. Everybody, please come.
I can put the slides if your hand is up. Just let me know where it's on the
It's
folder.
here only, folder, fourth.
Is it necessary to hold the mic? No, if you feel you're loud enough, then that's
Can I
okay.
please? Much better.
So when you start speaking, just check your voice is audible.
Yeah.
If it is, then we're okay.
Guys, can you hear me?
Shreya, I can trust both of
Shreya,
them.
can you? Mom, I did a presentation today. Was I not loud enough in the morning?
You were. These are
We turn the ACs on.
Yeah. And it was cold anyway, so you can just do the.
Are we recording?
I doesn't look like unusual. Well, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, what's he going to put it inside?
Okay, here you will not be visible there. So you stand there.
Try to stand your hands to the camera. See this side onwards, you will stand.
No, that's okay. Okay, now we have Sonali, Atya, Sia, Shreya, Radhika,
And
Nandini with
Why do we
us.
keep turning it off?
Please go ahead. And guys, please limit to 8 minutes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm really grateful for this opportunity because we have conducted a study and it took us a lot of time and effort to actually conduct such a study. We actually learned everything that we're learning in the research methods, limitations, how it affects, how there are limitations, and going through those limitations, it was a tiring process, but a great learning process. First of all, I'd love to thank Professor Shweta for helping us in each and every step of the study because it wasn't easy and she kept on motivating us. So what we are exploring is climate awareness and how this awareness can contribute to anxiety, specifically climate anxiety. It is a fairly new concept that is being researched upon. Now Shreya will be talking about the main themes of the research and what our objective is.
So, am I audible?
Kind of, but a lot.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So think about how the weather has changed ever since you were a child. Like, have you noticed how perhaps summers have become longer and they start off earlier and they're a lot more hotter this time? This is all because of climate change. So the purpose of our study is to understand and observe the current awareness around climate change and anxiety with climate change amongst young adults. So for our introduction, we have 3 themes, which is climate anxiety, climate perception, and climate awareness. Now, to put it simply, climate anxiety is a sense of fear. It is a sense of worry. It's a sense of uncertainty as to what the consequences of climate change might be on us, on the masses. And climate perception.
Shreya, can you use the mic?
And climate perception, on the other hand, it is, to put it in a simpler words, it's just the perception of what we see climate change as. It covers a range of psychological constructs like knowledge, like awareness of it, beliefs towards it, attitudes towards it. And talking about attitudes, there are 2 types of attitudes towards climate change. One is a bit more positive. These include the people who know that climate change exists. It's a thing. They are taking steps to kind of work on making it better, work on healing the earth. Whereas the negative masses, they don't think it's real because they're so indulged in capitalism and they're so indulged in just selfish needs that they don't really believe that it's a real thing. And the last is climate awareness. Now, again, climate awareness is pretty self-explanatory. It's just basically having an understanding of the effect and the impact of climate change on us and our impact
on it.
Okay, so I will be covering the methods and preliminary findings. Our research covered the criteria for quasi-experimental research design. And so there are two groups, Group A experimental group and Group B is the control group. We have exposed the Group A, which is the experimental group, with external stimuli, which is of two videos. We showed them two videos about climate change. One was about Pakistan floods, and the other was about how, in general, the climate is changing and global warming. So, yeah. We use these two questionnaires to analyze the awareness and anxiety levels regarding the climate change. So we use the climate change version of anxiety of Larina 2022 and the climate change awareness scale of Whitmarsh 2003. So higher score indicates the high climate anxiety and higher score indicates higher awareness of climate change and vice versa. Lower score indicates lower climate anxiety. So our preliminary findings suggest that individuals who were exposed to the video had higher awareness about climate change than those who are not exposed. And but although the awareness was high, the anxiety levels were also high because they did not know how to deal. They were not aware how to deal with it, and like they did not know what they could do about it. So yeah. So now we will go.
So what we're trying to get by this study is that although people they might be aware of climate change, okay, it is happening, but they are not aware of how to deal with the consequences of climate change. And it is really important to understand because our age group that we're focusing on, young adults, we will face the impacts, we will face the consequences in the future. And we need to be aware of how to deal with these consequences. When we're not aware of how to deal with these consequences, there is anxiety, there is an uncertainty that is created. So to tackle this problem, we have come up with an action plan. Is for first of all to validate our study, we need a much larger sample size. We only worked with a sample size of 29 responses. We are still figuring out how to collect more data. The second part of our action plan is to develop some kind of an educational material, maybe a website or an app for school and university students so that they can be aware of what is going on. This platform will be updated every week, every month with the information that is coming up. Now, what we want is that this education material can actually will help people think, and this will then result in proactive, pro-environmental behavior and more sustainable lifestyle choices. Because I have seen people that they are not really aware of what they are doing, how they are using resources at the moment. For example, the wastage of food in our cafeterias, that is a really big problem, and we need to really understand what can we do, how can we implement it. So providing this education at an early age would actually implement our behaviors and our lifestyle choices in the future. Thank you so much. Now we would like to get any questions, feedback and questions.
So our research again is just a work in progress right now. So we would like any suggestions that can help us expand our research, or any suggestions on how we can build the education material in a better way. Also, any questions are welcome. Radhika, Nandini, and I will be addressing these. Yes, sir.
So I really appreciate at least you have a structure, scientific structure in your research. That's really good, something that real efforts have gone in. I appreciate that. what probably I'm interested in is the video that you have shown.
Yeah.
The participants are Indians.
Yes.
I don't know the demographic. The video was something to do with.
There were two videos. One was about Pakistan floods because it's very closer to India, the Indian continent, Indian country. And the other video was about the global impacts of climate change. We had mentioned several countries covered by UNESCO and how they made up a video about it. So.
I would be more interested in knowing that unless the consequences directly affect me or my generations or my whatever, it, the kind of responses, probably you will have another group which shows climate change in and around them, consequences to the future generations of their own local cultural, and would like to see how it differs. Just to check another hypothesis, how self probably community of their own or the future of their community would have a greater role to play in developing a positive attitude towards climate change. Yeah.
You're not audible.
Louder or you can
So I was saying, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood, you showed the two videos. One about Pakistan floods and one about the climate, right? So now I wanted to ask whether the heightened anxiety could be a result of the grave nature of the first video rather than just climate change itself. For example, just to provide a comparison, if I watch a movie about, if I watch a movie with graphic depictions of violence, versus I watch a documentary that analyzes the same, so I would be more anxious about when I watch the first one. How do you see that?
I think in the conclusion also we mentioned that while people were aware, because it's mostly young adults, right? And most of our database comes from a very, it's focused on undergraduate students or postgraduate students. So people are aware of climate change, but after seeing the video, the experiment group, we think it's they know how to deal with it now, because those videos don't only just talk about what problems are caused due to climate change, but also what we can do towards it. So I think that's one of the major factors that cause the anxiety factor in the experiment group, and that is why it was lacking in the control group.
I would like to just correct, sorry. The videos didn't show how to deal with it. No, the anxiety levels, they are caused by because people don't know how to deal with the consequences of environmental change. So what we focused was that when people are aware that okay, climate change is happening, will the anxiety levels increase? And now when we have some sort of control, some sort of knowledge that okay, I can control it by making certain lifestyle choices, will that anxiety level decrease because of that control? So that's what we are focusing on.
When did you show the video relative, or excuse me, when did you take your assessment of anxiety relative to showing the video?
We took the anxiety, that's why we had two groups. The first group, the experimental group, their anxiety levels were measured after they were asked, they were made to watch the video. And the other group, their questionnaires, they didn't see any kind of material or any video. They were just asked to fill in the forms. There was a difference. The anxiety levels were higher compared to the experimental in the experimental group compared to the control group.
So if I could, I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping ahead, but just real quick. You're looking at these educated young adults, everybody is familiar with climate change. So rather than having a control group of young videos to with, it might be better to look at different types of videos, emotionally arousing and plot related versus more information or factual based. And then in terms of your dependent variable, it's not the acute emotional response, but do you actually see a potential change in behavior? And you could track that over days or weeks to see if the information and or the emotional response, again, whether they actually have a, not just acute, but more of a chronic long-term effect.
Thank you for that suggestion. We will definitely work on this because we tried to complete this research in the span of 2 or 3 weeks. So it is still, we only had 29 responses. We are looking for more than 100 responses to actually validate the study. So that's why we're here today.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. But again, we're just
Yeah.
here to try to ask you feedback.
I have one question. It's not necessarily a question, a suggestion that when you talked about there are two groups who are positively oriented around climate change and reactions towards it, and they're taking proactive steps. And then there is another group which are negatively affecting climate change and are probably not doing anything. And there is also a group with a neutral attitude towards it. As Professor Baker mentioned, that if it is not hitting close to home, it is not working. Remember, we did some attributional biases in environmental psychology. So connect back it from there that there is a neutral group who does nothing about it and doesn't care about it. They're not doing anything to harm the environment, but they're not doing anything proactively to improve their behavior. So as Professor Derek mentioned, behavior tracking over a period of time following the climate change awareness might help.
Thank you so much.
True, and then
Okay, so just one question. And I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm saying this one question. I'm very sorry if this comes off as a problematic. But just something I was thinking, we do Indian population, and he shows them a video of Pakistani guns, like the ones that are using. The second that came to my mind is India and Pakistan's conflicted historical state and earlier history. My inference is from the just good hypothesis. Don't you think there's a possibility that participants after the event, which is a Pakistani guns, might still be responding in an artificial manner? Like, because the main thing that because Pakistan, again, not the same people as xenophobic or anti-Islamic, but this is something that's popularly existed.
That is a completely valid point, of course. We should have been more informed about what all videos we should have chosen. The reason I selected that we should do that video because it was a very common, the incident happened very recently. And I had talked to people about it and they weren't aware of the Pakistani floods. It wasn't televised or that much. So I think that was because I was so attached that why isn't this media covering that aspect? So, but thank you so much for that suggestion. I think it's really important.
Also, I would like to add that we share boundaries with the country, so it's like almost near India. So I think that must
Also,
come
I
out.
think geographical effects that you see, if, for example, if it's happening in Pakistan, okay, I can be thinking about, okay, it's Pakistan, I don't care, it's not my country. But again, as Sia mentioned, it is literally adjacent to India. And there was another video as well, which was universally addressing the effects of climate change. So I mean, while I understand your point and perspective that it comes from a political, there can be a political bias there. I think physical effects of climate change and physiological effects of climate change I could be wrong again. That can overpower the political perspective.
Okay, one last question.
So the question is not question. I understand that the research and they say that he wanted. So one aspect that we could consider is like a worldwide approach where you can lower income countries and higher income countries and how their climate awareness because it's been like documented that lower income countries actually suffer more from the climate change. And the reason for most of global warming is because of pollution emitted by higher income countries. So if you measure by spread awareness in both countries and how what people perceive the damage to people.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like we will actually incorporate that. Our research is the reason we came here was to understand our limitations properly and get more suggestions so that we can actually increase our literature review and include everything and actually like publish it because it is a very important topic for me personally. So I think thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have the last presentation for the day by Ayushi.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for everyone who's continued to sit here after the break as well. Since the last presentation, I will keep it as short as possible. So before we dive into this, let me just paint you a picture, right? It's a few months to college and you are receiving all this pressure from your parents, from your friends who are talking about the colleges that they're applying to, thinking about what you want to do in life. And you know what? You're not that stressed as of yet. You've watched Netflix movies where the protagonist writes about their vacation and gets into Ivy League. So it's really not stressing you out that much. But then when you do open it, there is a monotonous chore of writing your details again and again on each application. And though it is quite annoying and frustrating, it doesn't seem that big of a deal. And then you reach the essays section, where people are asking you about your belief systems and about what you can do to contribute to the educational environment and to the world. And you really can't even think of 5 adjectives to describe yourself. So now you're facing a bit of an identity crisis. And this is how I came about my topic. Why do universities use essays in their application procedure? So before we go into it, I will just go into like a very simple definition of a simple answer to this question. It's basically for holistic assessment. It has to be qualitative as well as quantitative when you're measuring someone and you're measuring if they're worthy of your college, basically. So the US Supreme Court says that holistic assessments and essays in general are a highly individualized review of each applicant's file, which gives serious consideration to all the ways an applicant might contribute to a diverse educational environment. And by diverse here, we are not just talking about diverse by culture or diverse by ethnicity, it's also diverse by the trajectories of life. The thing about essays is that it's a lot more, the need for essays is a lot more structural than clear. We all have, or at least I hope you have witnessed the presidential debates of Trump and Biden. The New Yorker called them a national humiliation, and justifiably so. We saw Trump contribute some incogent rants, some virulent bigotry, and also some personal assaults on the opposition son. And Biden wasn't any better because he called Trump Putin's puppy. And when we compare these to the history of presidential debates, especially when we go back to the time of Lincoln and Stephen Douglas, even the whole concept of presidential debate is winning points against each other, right? But back then, politicians actually tried to aim to the public intellectual. They provided some sort of backing for all the claims that they made. And this is something that I believe is missing in today's world. I don't think, this is just my view, I don't think that politicians really try to appeal to the public intellectually anymore. And this kind of thinking actually seeps into the youth as well. So there's so much emphasis on making bold claims, on having a view, or having a particular opinion, on making an assertion. But there's not enough emphasis on backing your view, on giving the logic behind the view, on explaining and explicating it. So this is where it comes down to an inherent flaw in the educational system. Why is it that when I have a view, I can't really express it properly? I know in my head that it is something that is worthy of saying, but I cannot explain myself. It's because we are products of an education where we are taught by rote learning. We are given a book and said that you have to go by this. And then suddenly when you reach college, you have to challenge those very principles that you have learned all throughout your life. So obviously this is going to be kind of a challenging task, and that's why essays prove to be so hard for a lot of people. Which is something that international admission committees as well say, that the number one problem when it comes to essays that they read is lack of substance and lack of creative confidence. So let's look at why essays are important and what exactly are the benefits of essays. The number one priority of essays is prioritization, and intellectual maturity entails an understanding of emphasis. If you know what is pressingly essential and what is just merely important, then you can write an excellent essay. Because a lot of the times you overload an essay with so many aspects that you don't know where you have reached at the end. You have to paraphrase and edit it to a very large extent. Let me give you an example. One of the essays I came across was describe your life story and tell us how you can contribute to our educational environment based on what you've learned in life in 750 words. Now, this is a very, very broad topic, and I have to talk about my entire life till now and what I've learned in 750 words. And I ended up overloading the essay with so much information that at the end, I myself was confused about who I was. So when it comes to essays, you need to be able to prioritize the facets and organize the essay in such a manner that it appeals to the admission committee and also gets the point across. So one of the very important benefits of essays is how it provides you a medium for self-reflection. Now, you might hold a really, really strong opinion about a subject, but you will still have to surrender in the face of logic when you are not being given information that confirms your bias. Even though you might actively seek it, you have to kind of surrender in the face of logic. So it's a way of self-reflection where you you're aware that you have a bias. You're aware that there's a certain way you look at things. And then there's another way that's provided to you, and you have to consider it and you have to debate for it in your essay. So it kind of helps you in self-reflection. So a lot of people actually think that they need to talk about unfortunate events in their essays. They need to talk about sad things so that the admission committees kind of empathize with them, which is not exactly the case. These are diseases, death of loved ones, deportation. These are all very unfortunate events, like I mentioned, but they're faced by a lot of people. So what makes you different? So you have to kind of balance it out with logic. One of the examples is in Harvard. They talked about how there were a lot of students who faced death of their parents due to 9/11. But what they did is they enrolled themselves into the political science program so that they could help with counterterrorism measures. And they gave these counterterrorism measures based on their own experience. So they balanced out their indulgent feelings and controlled thought, giving a very great essay. I think we all do this when we write essays where we use Quillbot to paraphrase what we're writing basically, and we kind of make sure that our language is very formalized, it's very technical, and sometimes we can go overboard with it, making it seem not very coherent. What universities and essays look for is not that you're using technical terms or fancy language. What they look for is you have a certain coherence, to language, and that you can use this language to your discussion. So it does not have to be really technical or really fancy. It should be in your favor and it should be able to be coherent. Another thing that is important is how essays can enhance critical thinking. So obviously when you're asked to think about a topic, you are putting a lot of objective thought into it. You're putting your biases aside and thinking about it. But another thing that we do is we completely shatter a belief system. We tear down a belief system or an opinion of someone without giving our own logic for it. So what essays force you to do is that even if you are tearing down the confines of a certain subject, you need to explain yourself. Why is there a fallacy, and where does the bias lie, and how can you make this better? So I've been fortunate enough to publish it, and what I think the implications of my publication is how colleges can design application procedures. So a lot of colleges make essays optional, which I think should not be a thing because it should be necessary to write an essay. It really helps you bring out a lot of aspects that are missing in other measures. And how schools can design a syllabus, I talked about how there's an inherent flaw in the education system and how the education system itself can better itself so that we can have better thought processes and essay writing in colleges. Okay, so what are the problems? Now, like I mentioned, essays are usually very heavily edited and paraphrased. So how do we tackle this problem? A lot of universities have on-the-spot essays where you are given a topic and you have a time restriction and you have to write in that point. So you cannot really edit and paraphrase it a lot. You have to provide what you think on the spot. What kind of questions they should ask? So now the questions that universities ask have become very predictable. Same thing, like I said, well, talk to us about your life, talk to us about your challenges, what have you learned from a major challenge. I think that there is a lot more potential of these questions and that research into essay writing and application procedures can find better questions as to what to ask students and really challenge them. And different mediums of holistic review. Obviously, not everyone has expertise in writing. Some are better in speaking, like me. So I would prefer that there are also interviews along with essays and other mediums of holistic review. Right. So I mentioned I have been fortunate enough to publish, and God bless sir for giving me this opportunity. If there's anything else that you guys can contribute, any way that I could have bettered this essay, any other factors I could have taken into consideration, and what do you believe you think essays are a requirement or not, let me know. I will take feedback and questions now.
Do you think there is a distinction to be made between an essay by an undergraduate applicant versus a postgraduate applicant? Should the way that their essay is framed, the way the student approaches it different?
I think currently, yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned, the education system doesn't really prep us for writing essays before we enter college. So since I think last semester, I have gotten a lot better at writing essays now than in my first year. So I think in that case, postgraduates will have a lot more mastery in writing essays itself and will have more discussion of language. But if, like I said, they change the education syllabus and we are taught to write essays at a very young age, I think even undergraduate level students can write as well as postgraduate level students, and there shouldn't be a distinction there.
I think you have to say there's a book between and there's some of the undergraduates what sort of skills would you like to learn? That's just more of an implication.
Okay, so when it comes to writing essays particularly, I think so, like I mentioned, definitely a major topic I would talk about is language and how they use language to their discussion. Because, like I mentioned, in education, especially English and critical thinking are treated as very secondary subjects. And I was really glad that last year we got it as a core subject. So one thing that I would definitely cover is English and maybe more of objective thought and debating. I think that's something we don't see in our high school, where we are asked to come and debate on a topic. So if I were to actually conduct a workshop, I would do more of that, have people come and explain their views, and then maybe also try to put it down. So that's something I would definitely include. And like I mentioned, prioritization as well. Probably giving them a huge amount of information and asking them to prioritize what do you think is relevant to the topic. So obviously, language is very vast. I mentioned it in my this thing as well, that language is too vast to fathom completely. But when it comes to essays, the beauty of essays is that it has all types of, all constructions of language in it. There's sentence construction, there's technical terminology, there's also how you basically structure your essay. So I think when it comes to language itself, we can cover all those topics. Especially when it comes to sentence construction, people don't realize if they should write their essays in first person, if they should write in third person, how should they really write it? So it could be based on the tense, it could be based on construction, it could be based on what type of language. I also mean is the formalized or informalized structure of language. Yes.
Given the diversity of Indian population and also the language, do you think allowing essays in different forms, that could be video essay, you have brought that issue, but what do you think about more than one language, medium of instruction being English dominating most of the places? How do you see allowing more than one language to express the essay or whatever the content is or matter?
I think that's definitely a good idea, considering that at least in India, not all schools are English medium. There are a lot of other mediums as well. So writing essays in other languages should be permitted according to me. Especially because even if you are going to an English medium school, you might have a first language that you can use more to your discretion, that you can use better. I don't know how many of you have watched Modern Family, but in that there's Gloria, who speaks in Spanish and also in English, and she does say that I'm a lot smarter, I'm a lot more clever in Spanish, but nobody will realize because I'm using English. So I think that's a major issue that we tackle as well, that you could be a lot better in one language. So I definitely think that should be permitted.
Okay, I think we're coming to the end of the session. Thank you, Ayushi. We'll have the valedictory session, and I would like to invite Professor Derek over here, and we'll be giving you the certificates for attempting and to be part of actively being part of the first session. And I hope others, we would like to see your faces on the upcoming posters. We'll open the nominations in January for the next semester sessions. So we hope to receive more and more nominations for the same. Professor Derek. Yeah, I'll just, you'll have to face the camera. Okay, Ayushi, yeah. Ayushi Manocha.
Can I get it?
Okay, Priya, grab. Vanchika Mehta. Jency Nayak. And since three of them presented as a group, would you like to have individual pictures or as a group? Okay, so Shravan and Dhruv.
There you go. We'll let you guys go. One of you guys. Right. Thank you, guys.
Sonali, Sia, Adya, Shreya, Radhika, and
Yay! 6 of you.
yes. Sia, Adya,
Adya. Shreya?
They're not here.
Radhika's not here?
She's not.
please place yourself.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
We'll have a group picture with all the presenters for session one, with all the faculty members present.
And who else is on here?
Sudarshan, Deepak.
So you guys should jump in and do I hope you guys do it next time. You're more speaking.
Some of you can come this side. That side is quite occupied.
Yeah. So we'll just.
Ayushni, you can send me your essay. I would like to read. It was more
I do want
interesting
to
to listen, but I have to send
Yes,
it.
Deepak, can you just
Yeah.
move aside? That's big. Shove has to come, Chetri has to come.
Yeah, we can work on
That's okay. I think.
That's all I would like to say.
That's it. There's a balance song. Come.
You can come here.
I'll say
You can come here if you want. You're on
Is
call.
everybody-
You get a break.
Oh, wait.
It's on the table. Yes, you want.
Thank you.
We request all the faculty to come in, please.
Yeah, students, if you stay, we can get everybody.
We're going to get a lot of photo shoots.
Let's adjust it. You can change your position. Who was that person?
If you want, you can sit also on the table except on that bed part.
Sitting here.
No.
We can excuse in too long.
Yeah. Look at us.
That's fine.
You can stand on one of the desks, right?
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
My mom's
You'll have to log out. Your account is
Mera.
Oh, your account.
Yeah.